let's try to build a very simple button for the base of our joystick, and at the same time take a look at the meaning behind global and local orientation for move, scale, and rotate. So we can go to surfaces and create a sphere. We can go into top view, press my Alt key, so I create a sphere snapping to the grid. We can go to the side view, and maybe I'm going to adjust the scale already through the creation tool for the sphere, kind of like this. Okay. Now let's move the sphere a little bit to there. And you see that there is a Z, X, and Y line. Also, I'm in the right view, so you see the Z axis goes up and down, the X axis goes left and right, and my view axis, so the way how your eyes look onto that screen, that's the Y axis. If I now click on rotate, and I press, of course, my middle mouse button, I'm going to rotate along the Y axis. And again, as a fresh up, the left mouse button is X, the middle mouse button is Y, and the right mouse button is Z. And I try to rotate it so that somehow it averages the curvature so that the sphere somewhat tangent-wise will intersect with the surface. Now I could go into move, and if I press my right mouse button, you will notice that my sphere is actually not going straight up and down, but along the z-axis of the sphere. You see the z-axis is rotated. So how does that happen? If you go back to move and double click it, you will see that it has a global and a local. This is our object, and the object I rotated. So I gave that object a rotation value. It's rotated along the y-axis. So I'm using the local orientation, so the object being rotated, and then move the object with my right mouse button along the z-axis of the object. So the z-axis for the object is rotated and not straight up and down like for the world. If I click on global, then of course, as you can see, the object goes straight up and down, which works as well, but here I would have to just move it around a lot till it hits. I mean, that's also a possibility. If I go to local, then I can go this way and this way. So it's maybe a little bit easier to just find a position where then the button nicely intersects with the surface. And again, to refresh the meaning of the pivot point, if I go to rotate and double click it, rotate also has global, local. Let's say we go to local, there you see the projection of those axis coordinates onto the object, and I press the middle mouse button. You see that it rotates along the y-axis. But it's not really the y-axis of my object, but actually the y-axis of the pivot point. If I click now the pivot point and maybe put it to here, I could also, for example, snap it to the grid with the Alt key, and maybe leave it there, and then go back into rotate. You see that the rotation orientation widget snaps to the pivot point. And if I now press my middle mouse button, you see that it rotates around that center point. And of course, if I go to here, I can just place it back. Or press undo in case you would like to precisely snap it back to where it was before. And that is a difference between local and global orientation for rotate, move, and scale.